Welcome into the Michael Walsh Show. Hope you've been having a wonderful day. Today on the show, I want to talk about a risk, but it's a great risk that's actually attributed to success. And you're like, what would be risky or challenging about success? Well, believe it or not, when you start to achieve success or you achieve a greater level of success than you've ever seen in your life, there is a massive risk to you actually still fulfilling your purpose that can come along. And I'm going to talk about that on today's show. But as always, I'd like to just take a quick minute and say thank you to many of you that have been listening faithfully for some time. If you don't know, the Michael Walsh Show we've been recording for almost 5 years now. We've had all kinds of different guests on, from rock stars to business owners to really unique people, quite honestly, and we've shared thought and insight to help you empower your life, right? You hear me at the end of each show talking about the idea of living on purpose so you can live with purpose. That is really my passion in this show. Many of you that are just getting to know me or maybe newer to the show as you're watching on YouTube, or maybe you're still listening via podcast, you've caught us there. You may not know that I've been in business for almost over 20 years now with multiple financial companies. And those are the sponsors, really, of this show. So if you have questions about your wealth, about taxes, about all this craziness happening in our society today, head over to leanonthewall.com. A lot of great information for you to find there. But on today's show, I want to just unpack this, the greatest risk that you can have with your success. And you might say, again, why would having success be risky? Well, really what happens is, I don't know if you've ever noticed this in your life, but if you've ever achieved something, I think back to, younger years, or maybe we watch our kids where they work really hard, they're playing baseball, or they're in some other kind of sport, and they work hard, and they grow and grow and grow, and then all of a sudden they win the championship, right? Well, what can happen sometimes is you can kind of start to be like, hey, I got the medal, I got the trophy, I won the championship. It's like, what is there to win now? Well, obviously there's always another level. But what can happen from time to time is you can start to coast. You start to say, hey, I've achieved some success. And I'll liken it to this. You start out in life and you're in your early 20s and you're in a place where maybe you've graduated from college, or maybe you didn't finish school, and you're trying to find your way in life, and you're working a job and you make some money and you buy a decent car, and then you finally get a home, and then all of a sudden you make a little bit more money, and then you buy a nicer car and you're starting to take nicer vacations, and you buy a bigger home, and now you're in a place where you're like, I got some money in the bank, and you're kind of starting to be in a place where you start to coast a little bit. In other words, the fire in the belly that you had when you were younger, when you were just kind of starting out and you were just grinding, has kind of gone away. I remember Tony Robbins talked about the idea that if you have something that you want to build, and you want to grow this particular thing, and then you grow it to that level, make sure when you are real close to achieving that success and whatever you're building, make sure you are ready with your next challenge, because we are people of complacency. It's so easy for us to get complacent. And I think that's so important when we take a look at life and really fulfilling true success. I think we have to step back and define what is true success. Well, I believe that true success is the idea of fully living out your purpose. In other words, you were put here on the planet for a particular idea or goal or task to accomplish. Only you can use the gifts and abilities that you have. You've heard me say that before. So if that's the case, and the goal is to really achieve and live out your complete purpose, well, successes along the way are good, but that's not the ultimate goal. Achieving your full purpose is your goal. And so that's why, really, when you look at success, coasting can happen. I remember when I was selling books door to door. So I was back in college. I sold books door to door. It was not easy. It was like knocking door to door, 80 hours a week in the hot sun. Sometimes I remember one time I was in, I think it was North Carolina, and right outside of Bladen County, Lumberton, to kind of put it on the map for you. And we would pass that from time to time as we would drive up and down 95 with my family. I'm like, hey, there's Lumberton, North Carolina. That's right where I used to sell books. And what happened is, I remember one time I went and I knocked on a door, and there was a gentleman that came to a door, and he had a shotgun. And he's like, excuse me, sir. I'm like, I must be at the wrong place. Like, I got out of there quick. But, you achieve some success. Maybe you have a great day. You sell a lot of books. You're like, man, I made a lot of money this day. Or maybe you have a great week, right? And you're like, I made a lot of money this week. And you can start to coast a little bit. You're like, I'm pretty good. I beat, pretty much everybody else in the group, or I was in the top 5, or I was in the top 3, and I'm just going to coast a little bit. I'm going to relax a little bit. Now, there's nothing wrong with relaxing in life. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we can get complacent and then fall into a place where we actually start to not go down the path of following our purpose. We go down the path of how do I find more comfort instead of how do I get back on the train and follow my purpose. And so this quote had come out, and I wrote it down so I didn't forget it here correctly, but it's the idea that if you're focused on what you did yesterday, you probably have not done much today. Think about that for a minute. So have you ever met anybody that's walked through life and all you hear them talking about is their past successes? Hey, you remember the time whenever I won this? Hey, you remember the time whenever I was, oh boy, Johnny, remember that time when we went out and we achieved whatever? Those are great things to reminisce in. But if that's all that you discuss, if that's all that you talk about is how great you were some time in the past, you're probably not doing a whole heck of a lot today. And so that's a challenge that can come right alongside with success. And quite honestly, it can feel like it's deserved. Okay, I've achieved this level of success. Now I deserve to just, let me say, be a little bit more complacent. Now I deserve to just kind of, chill and relax. And, you've seen this maybe with people that have achieved great success. There's a lot of statistics. Many of you know that I have another show called the Invest Well Show, talk about investing. And there's a lot of statistics that basically say that the average person will pass away 4 to 7 years after their working years. So they work all of these years, they're needed, they're wanted, they're contributing, their mind is going, they're having to come up and be creative with new ideas, and then all of a sudden they retire. They got all this money, they retire, they're playing golf every day, they've lost their purpose. And when you lose your purpose, you kind of shut down. You're in a place where you kind of become complacent. That can be a real challenge. And the biggest reason that I wanted to touch on this today is I believe that if we look at our society and we look at where we are and we look at where we'd like it to be, or maybe where we want it to be, maybe if you're a parent and you have children, or maybe you're a grandparent and you have grandkids, and we say, man, America or our society, our land, our country is not the way it used to be. The reason that is because we've had, quite honestly, a fair amount of success. My dad would say it like this: we've moved too far away from the farm. And, by that I mean we're in a place where the idea of work and ethic and really doing things because it's the right thing to do has in a lot of ways evaded us as a country. Where we are now is it's kind of like, how can I get more so I can be more comfortable, so I can be happier, because I think more stuff will make me feel more comfortable. How can I fly private? How can I take nicer vacations? How can I live in a nicer home? How can I just be more relaxed for me, myself, and I, right? A lot of people are listening to WIIFM. What's in it for me? That's all they focus on. And that's what happens after we achieve sometimes a great level of success. And the level of success for you might be different than others. It may not be Jeff Bezos' success, trying to be the richest man in the world, but maybe you've had a level of success that you're like, you know what, I've watched myself after I've achieved some success. Maybe I got a certain job or got a certain position or whatever, and I noticed that I just didn't have as much passion for life. Maybe I'm talking to you. You're in a situation where maybe you're like, I just don't have as much passion for life. You've lost your fire, right? Because you got to maybe the level that you wanted to get to, and now you're like, now what? What do we do? Where do I go from here? Well, that's a challenge, and that's something that you have to keep in lens at all times. So how do you make sure that that doesn't happen? Well, I think the first thing that you got to do to make sure that that doesn't happen is have a goal to enjoy life along the way. It used to be where we would hear our parents years ago say, well, go to work somewhere for 30 or 40 years and save money and whatever, and then you can retire, and then you can enjoy life. Well, I don't know about you, but that doesn't seem like a great way to go through life for me. I don't want to work for 30 or 40 years and bust my butt forever, and then be in a place where I really don't have a lot of fun on the journey, and then all of a sudden I'm like, now I'm going to start enjoying the journey when I'm retired and I'm 65 and my health isn't as good and I can't be as active and I can't do some of the things that I wanted to do when I was younger. That's no fun in my perspective. So I think one of the great ways to help not get complacent when success happens is to discipline yourself to actually enjoy. Discipline and enjoying doesn't seem like it goes hand in hand, but it actually does. Discipline yourself to enjoy success along the way. In other words, give yourself the right to celebrate successes on the journey, small successes on the journey. Now, not crazy celebration where you're putting yourself in a place where it's taking you away from your goals, but celebrate along the way. The other thing that I think, and probably number two, which is super helpful as far as not being complacent, is getting yourself into a place where you're really thinking in terms of 1 year, 5 year, and 10-year goals. We live in a society today, in a world today that changes so fast, right? I mean, I'm holding right now, I got the iPhone 12. It's my phone now. Well, that's not what I had 5 years ago. It's not what I had 2 years ago. We see technology changing so fast. We see things changing so fast. We see what we need as far as occupations changing fast. We see a lot of things changing quickly. Technology is again, the leader in much of this, but things change so fast that we're like, wow, how do I keep up with this? But I think the thing we got to think about is we can still set those goals. Where do you personally want to be? What does that look like? Right? Maybe your goal is to always find yourself in a place where you are challenged. That's a better goal than saying, hey, let me get to a certain amount of money, right? If I get $1 million, then $5 million, then $10 million, then $100 million or $1 billion, depending on whatever your situation looks like. Instead of that being the goal, the money, chase your purpose. You may have heard me say before, but I'll say it now. If you chase money, you'll never find your purpose. If you chase your purpose, the money will follow. Let me say that again. If you chase money, you'll never find your purpose. But if you chase your purpose, the money will follow. Now, it may not be the money that causes you to be the richest person in the world, but I can tell you that just amassing more and more wealth is not going to make you happy. What will make you happy is finding your purpose. So maybe having a goal in life, 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, to say, how can I continue to stay engaged? How can I continue to challenge myself? How can I continue to take new adventures, right? What I've noticed over the years in life is the more secure a person is in who they are, the greater risks that they'll actually take. Think about that for a minute. The more secure that a person is in who they are, the greater risks they will actually take. Why? Well, because they're confident in themselves. They're confident in the gifts and abilities that they bring to the table. They're ready for a challenge. They're coming to the task saying, I got my hard hat on. I can take some hits. I'm ready for this, right? And so when you look at your life, when you look at success, it can't just be about how do I make more money and how do I live more comfortably. It's got to be about how do I stay challenged, how do I stay engaged, and those types of challenges and goals, or those types of goals, I should say, really come from pushing yourself into a place where you say, how do I add more value to this world than I take from it? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Because you're either doing one of two things. You're either adding value to this world or you're taking value from it. There is no in between. If you have children, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're taking a lot of stuff. They're taking a lot of value from their parents, right? And hopefully the goal is to raise them and train them in such a way that they say, hey, you know what? No, I got to pick up after myself. I have to be a producer. I have to add value when I show up. I can't just get the trophy because I participated. I get the trophy because I worked hard and I put in the time and I put in the effort and I worked on my manners and I worked on my presentation and I worked on how I showed up and I worked on my end result and I focused on getting better and better and better. And because of that, I won a trophy. Or maybe the first time I failed, but that doesn't mean I quit. I go back and do it again. And when you think about life from that lens, which is you're either adding value or taking value, you say, okay, am I adding more value than I'm taking from this world? And if that is your goal, if that's your focus, you will find yourself in a place where success as it occurs, maybe I should phrase it this way, monetary success as it occurs will not be a pitfall for you. And the reason that it won't is because you'll look at it for what it truly is. It's a tool. Monetary success, financial success is a tool to be used to add value to other people. And when you look at your life through the lens of, am I adding more value than I am taking as I walk through this life, you will think about things differently. And that risk of complacency and coasting after you've achieved some success will more than likely not overtake you. That doesn't mean you won't ever fall into that trap. It just means you'll probably reset quicker than someone who is not setting goals in that capacity. These are just some great tips to help you stay living a life full of purpose, living a life full of vigor, and really waking up every day saying, man, I am jazzed up and excited about what I get to do today, and I'm excited about what I'm going to do tomorrow. Very important in life that we are thinking about these kinds of things. This is a conversation that you want to think over and listen to over and over and over again, because it's not just a one and done. It's not just a, listen once and then, okay, I got it, check, move on. No, we need this message on a regular basis. So I'm going to challenge you, whether you're watching this on YouTube or whether you're listening via podcast or watching in some other source, I want to challenge you to listen to this again and again and again. Share this with your family. Share it with your spouse. Share it with people that you care about, right? Send them a text. Say, listen, we got to get on point here in life. We're chasing after the wrong stuff. There's nothing wrong with taking nice vacations, buying nice things, and making more money. But if that is the only focus, we've missed it. We've missed it. I don't want you to miss it in life. I really want you to be in a place where you say, okay, there's a purpose for those things and there's a place for those things. There's nothing wrong with enjoying financial success. There's nothing wrong with that. Driving nice cars, taking nice trips. But if that is the focus, and that's the only focus, we've missed it. Well, listen, I hope that encourages you. And as I mentioned, go back again and listen to this again and again and again. I know from my days of listening to Zig Ziglar, it takes 14 to 15 to 16 times, believe it or not, until it is really embedded into your mind. And so I want to challenge you to take this and replay this and replay this and replay this as a steady diet of encouragement to you, so that way you can go down the process of really changing the way you think and adding more value in the world that we live in. And as always, my goal is for you to live on purpose so you can live with purpose. Take a quick minute and rate this show if you're listening to it via podcast. We'd love your rating. We'd love your comments and feedback. Always love hearing that. And as always, if you're listening on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you're aware of the next show and next piece of great content that we're bringing out as it comes out. Have a blessed day. We'll talk to you all soon.